What's up, guys? So, one of my biggest videos on this channel for some reason is the one entitled My Ironworker Experience, where I literally just talk about how I got into the apprenticeship and how it was for me. I really wasn't complaining, but it's really funny to see all the iron workers or the big manly men in the comments being like you just couldn't handle it, or you just are weak and a woman and da 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 da. Like, it's okay. No, I saw a better opportunity. So just let me tell it in a different way. Okay. So me and my ex were trying to move to Texas or whatever. Didn't work out. We came back. One of the first things I got in the mail was my acceptance letter thingy for the Gladiator program, because they were having an all-female woman's thing. You know, they do it for show and tax write-offs and stuff. So I'm well aware of that. And because of that, it fast-tracked me in front of the thousands of other people that were in the actual Gladiator program waiting list, whatever. So people were automatically kind of salty about that, because a lot of people just wait on the list forever, to be honest, and then they recycle every couple of years and people probably forget about it. But anyways, so I went to this, I think it was 140 hours or something like that. It was a good amount of time. We would go to the apprenticeship every day and, weld, stick weld, make columns, make mats. Obviously, there's a lot of tying rebar. We got into some structural and ornamental stuff. It was a good time. In the other video, I talked about the people there, because it was really funny, because everyone was gay and everyone was cheating on their girlfriends or wives with each other. But I was super socially awkward at the time. So I just kept to myself and was just kind of that weird one, But it's all good. Anyways, so I did that. I was like, no, I want to be a rod buster, because it's the hardest thing you can do. And when me and a couple other people picked that in the class, everyone was like, wow, you're badass, or this or that. So of course, yeah, let's do that. It's the hardest thing you can do, right? And it is, to a degree. Tying rebar all freaking day. I'm sure some people will have whatever, but being a rod buster is really respected in construction in general. So I did that for about a year. I switched between companies like you do. I did some welding, I did some decking. I really liked the big ass deck saws, they were cool. I learned how to use a grinder. I learned how to use everything. Everything I know about construction, basically, I learned in the Ironworkers. And yeah, I did get carpal tunnel really bad, and one of the first companies I worked for, Alamillo, before I switched to CMC, I was like, hey, my hands are, they get really swollen, I can't feel them, and I'll wake up in pain. My fingers, my pinky fingers were dislocating. I guess that's called trigger finger. And it still happens from time to time, depending on what I'm doing. And I just mentioned it not in oh my god, I can't do this kind of way. I was like, okay, so everyone has this, what do I do? What are good tips? They told me to go to their doctor, and then they fired me. And I was like, cool. So that was my first time feeling really disposable in a union. And that's the thing, in the Ironworkers Union, if you lost a job or the job was ended or whatever, you just went to the hall and they found you a job. And it was pretty easy. The turnover rate was pretty good. I think I made $18.50 when I was there. And then I didn't stay to level up, honestly. I know at the time Journeyman made $35 an hour or something like that. But one day I was putting up tow boards around this parking garage, and this one dude was complaining. He's like, I'm not doing carpenter stuff for ironworker wage. I'm like, don't we make more though? He's like, hell no. And I was like, how much do they make? And starting was 30 something. So I was like, okay, be right back. So I literally went to the porta potty that exact moment and called the local 152 in Martinez, and they're like, we're full, but talk to local 180. And so I went through local 180 in Vallejo, and they were like, hey, well, that's great, we have this spot open for Kaiser's, carpenter, whatever. And so I was like, hell yeah, put me on that. And within 2 weeks, I switched from the Ironworkers Union to the Carpenters Union. I'm halfway through my apprenticeship because of COVID, but I was there for 4 or 5 years. Because of lack of classes and lack of work, because you have to have a specific amount of hours. It's the same with Ironworkers. You have to have 2 classes, 100 and something hours and X amount of time, and you have to pass the classes or whatever to level up. And so I think I was a 5th period apprentice when I left the Carpenters. But I did that. I did as well. Let me go back. So since I was an iron worker, they had me do a lot of like concrete work or rebar work, or I would work with pile drivers a lot, do a lot of concrete chipping, digging holes, you know, asphalt, pavement, grading, you know, bridge builder stuff. We did bridges, we did overpasses, you know. Like, so when people try to tell me that I couldn't make it in the iron workers because I was too weak, and then I went on to be a heavy and highway freaking like carpenter, it's like, okay, sure, bro. Like, if that makes you feel like your PP is bigger, then tell yourself whatever you want. Like, you know, like there is valid complaints about being in any job. I was just saying, like, they even tell you, like, in the classes that you take from the union or whatever, that, like, by 40, your knees are going to be shot. You know, you're going to have back problems. You're going to pop discs. You know, they showed us how to sit properly and how to move properly because any wrong turn can kind of F up your disc, you know. They tell us how to deal with pain and, like, carpal tunnel and stuff like that. They show us people being electrocuted. They show us, you know, graphic things where, like, a skill saw blade went through someone's face. You know, they show you all the stuff that you're getting into. And that's fine, you know, there's risks with everything. Never once did I, like, legitimately complain, like, I just can't do this, or, like, iron workers are just so, you know, I'm not talking bad about iron workers, so I don't know why that video gets so many comments, like, oh, well, good, get out the way, you just can't handle it, like, bro, every iron worker I know, like, yes, there's exceptions, but usually they're like an alcoholic, they can't keep a wife, they're just miserable as hell to be around, they're in pain all the time, like, okay, like, just because I'm freaking honest and said that that's pretty damn accurate, you know, like, it doesn't take skill to be an iron worker, at least to get in, you know, and, like, that's pretty known. If you can work hard and have a good work ethic, which is great, I'm not talking crap about that, but I'm just saying it's a lot easier to be an iron worker and a laborer, you know, than it is like a carpenter, electrician, elevator union, you know, etc. I think sheet metal is a little bit easier to get into. HVAC and plumbing, that's like a long commitment because you have to be in like the apprenticeship for like 5 years and go like basically, or is it 2 or 3 times a week or something like that? And at the time I was married and I didn't want to waste any more time away, and honestly I should have done something like that because I feel like they teach you more. I'm terrible at math, like straight up, so that's why I figured I could never be an electrician because I probably wouldn't pass the test. But you know, well, I was just simply explaining in the other video, like, the pros and cons. Like, the pros in California, you know, I think it probably goes like laborer, iron worker, sheet metal worker, carpenter, like plumbing, HVAC, electrician, and elevators union makes like 100 something plus an hour, but they don't work that often. You know, like, everyone's benefits are different. They're good benefits. Like, what I was complaining is about the lack of work, and what I've noticed is if you're female, or if you're like a short dude, or if you're just like different and not buddies with like everybody there, and you don't try to copy like the foreman, like, that's a big thing. Like, we would call them Kyles. You know, they'd come in, like, whether they looked like me or, like, all preppy or something. Within about a couple months, they all dressed in camo, they chewed Copenhagen, they wanted a diesel truck for some reason, or got, like, a Tacoma, you know, and all wore Carhartt and all this shit, you know, and we're super America, and they weren't like that before, but you know why? Sometimes, like, when you fit in and you emulate your bosses, they tend to like you because you guys are similar, and I just couldn't do that. You know, a lot of people told me just to be fake and stuff like that, and I'm a bad liar. I really am. If I'm not feeling something, my face will say it, you know? So, I was just kind of pointing out that that's, like, a big thing. Yeah. So, I just think it's funny that I get so much hate, like, to this day, and I think I did that video in, like, I don't even know. It was, like, years ago, either way, so it's just, like, really funny to me that y'all are so sensitive. Just like, dude, know your worth. If like, you're, like, upset that I'm talking crap about being an iron worker, like, dude, it works for some people can do it, you know, but I've seen, like, big ass dudes that, like, are hella strong and have big ass wrists and, like, this and this and that and blah blah blah, and they still get hurt often. and can't hang, or they get injuries, or, you know, commuting and working, you know, for freaking like 18 hours a day sometimes, or traveling to wherever the hell, like that can strain relationships and it can just really F you up. So sometimes I totally see why people want a lower paid, steady job close to home. Like, it makes perfect sense, you know? So I'm not hating on any profession, and I'm so tired of, like, especially in construction, where they're like, yeah, but I'm stronger, I'm more macho, I do this, I do that, you know? Like, sometimes it's like the little ass dudes that work the hardest, or it's like, you know, the little pretty boys, or whatever you want to call them, or like, you know, whatever people want to call derogatory terms, they're doing like the finished work, like their shit looks amazing, you know? Like, it's not all about how, you know, it just got very, very annoying to, like, keep playing that freaking game. And it is very true, like, okay, so, like, especially with ironworkers and carpenters, there's, like, 1,500 people, let's say, or 1,500, like, active apprentices, right? Okay, well, when COVID happened, where the hell are we gonna work, right? And even before that, like, they keep saying about, like, a recession, or, like, there's only so many commercial buildings you can build, you know? Like, even if there was, like, let's say there was 100 jobs. Like, let's give it, like, really whatever. Like, there was 100 jobs. Do you really think that 100 of us, of each of us, or, you know, 150 of us, were going to be, like, on a job? They don't need that many people, especially if you're good, and especially with the wages you're paid. Like, carpenters, I think they make up to, like, 55 now, I want to say. Most I made was like 45-ish or something like that, like after like all the other deductions and stuff like that. But yeah, so keep on hating and calling me weak, because so I went from doing that, and then I got into I messed around. I did some like custom like homework and stuff like that on and off. I had my own landscaping business for like a summer, like legitimate, like with the county and all that fun stuff, and then I got divorced, and I was, like, really depressed for a time, and I was on, like, unemployment, like most people were, and then I started working for Tesla in their solar roofing division, and I was making pretty good money. I was working, like, 16 hours a day. Fun fact about that, so I started doing the solar roof, which is, like, actual panels and metal work, and, like, you know, it's, like, tear-offs and, like, actual, like, technical stuff, right? And then they kind of phased that out for whatever reason, I guess manufacturing problems. And, like, I would go to school for that stuff too. Like, I have, like, a pretty good, like, resume and certification list, so, and I feel like that is because I moved around so much. Like, it kind of made me be a jack of all trades, you know? Master at none type thing. Or master of none, not at none. Yeah, and then we switched to PV, and I did that for several months with Tesla. And with that, like, you know, you're going to people's homes, so most people would, like, piss in a bottle, which I did as well, but like you'd go in the box truck and pee in it or whatever, basically, because they didn't give you bathrooms. We were not allowed breaks, because, you know, sometimes we'd be in Blackhawk and the nearest Safeway was 20 minutes away, so think about that, that's 20 minutes there, 20 minutes back, however long you're there, you know, and that's how much, you know, I think it would have just been smarter if they would have just, like, trailed porta potties behind. We already towed stuff, we already were in big trucks that were annoying, like, why not, you know? But for some reason they didn't. So about once a day, not every single day, I would take myself and a couple crew members to the bathroom, and we literally were getting written up for that. I'm like, how are you gonna, like, get us in trouble for using the bathroom when you don't provide us breaks, right? Like, we weren't complaining about the breaks because we wanted to get done soon anyway, but the fact is that, like, we couldn't go take a crap somewhere, or, like, if we didn't have a bottle to piss in, because sometimes they didn't even give us water, you know? And, like, yeah, bring your own water. Yeah, we did, but when it's hella hot, like, you drink a lot, so... So, I talked to the safety guy, and he's like, no, you can't get fired for that. If they fire you, like, that's, like, unlawful, basically, blah, blah, blah. Well, the next week, they called me in for a performance review, because they said I was doing good, and I was gonna be, like, because I came in higher at Tesla, and with this current job I have, but they were gonna give me a raise, because I was doing a lot of the electrical, and doing, like, the extra stuff, and blah, 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 and, like, built it up, and, then I get there and like, oh yeah, well, you take a break every day, and we can't really do that. That slows down production. Like, bro, like, I get that, but it's really not that big of a deal. But yeah, so I'm like really salty with them. They gave me like a severance, so I can't super talk crap, but I'm gonna talk crap anyway. They only gave me like $1,000, and then like after taxes and somehow deductions, it was like $600. So, F you, Tesla. And so yeah, then like the literal next day, I applied. My brother found that he Googled the nearest solar company next to my house, or next to the house or whatever, and it's, you know, I'm not gonna name it here, but it's a solar company. They pay per panel, so I make 17 per panel. So say we do like 30 panels, that's like $500 or $600. You know, a normal like 10 panel job will only take us like 3 hours. So say that's like freaking $170, you know, or $200 to make it, whatever. And then you're home by noon. Like that's pretty good per day. You know, like usually I'll make around like $3,000 like every 2 weeks. You know, before taxes and stuff like that, unfortunately. But it's still pretty decent. And so it just kind of baffles me that people are like, you're too weak, or you're too this, or like, you know, just get out of my way. Like, okay, queen. Like, you realize, like, it's a group thing. Like, you have, like, there's crews for a reason. Like, you can't just be a freaking dick like that. But go off, people, I guess. So yeah, if you literally are unhappy with, because honestly, I'm unhappy with what I'm doing because I want to do music, and I want to do other stuff that isn't killing my body, because I do have sciatica, I have a heart problem, that like mitral valve problem or whatever. Like, it's stuff that like is debilitating to work. Like, I will just go to work and I will come home and go to sleep or just like chill. I will still do it. I will complain a little bit because, like, I'm human, so I don't understand why people, like, oh, you just complain or don't complain, or, you know, keep your head down, or, you know, no. Like, why? Like, I'm not trying to keep up this facade or, like, lie to people. Like, yeah, it's so great, you know? We lift, like, 100-pound panels up roofs every day, and it's totally fine, and nothing goes wrong, you know? It's not 20 degrees hotter on the roof. They didn't have us work in 115-degree weather. Like, it wasn't 122 the other day. Like, I took it off. I took sick time. No. I know I have my OSHA certifications, and I know if it's over 105, you like really likely to get heat stroke, and it's like not legal after 105, I believe. You know, you work at your own discretion, but I don't give my discretion for that shit, so I did not. But be smart, because these companies that you're working for and you're acting all like tough, like, yeah, but you just can't do it, like, you're gonna get hurt. You're gonna, like, be in pain, you're gonna need time off, or something's gonna happen in your life, and that company is not gonna give a shit. So stop acting like that makes you better than everybody else, because it doesn't. It just makes you seem really ignorant, and like you're trying to be like, my dick's bigger, you know? Like, it's not cute. It's not, there's no point in that. Like, do your job. Like, but honestly, I would say, out of everything that I've learned through all the companies I've worked for, and like fields and construction and just in general, because I was also like a line cook and a dishwasher at night, because I still wasn't making enough money to make my wife at the time happy. I'm divorced now. You know, so I've done a lot of things, and I would say, if you don't have anything that makes you happy, or your hobbies are expensive, get the highest paying job, kill yourself, you know, not literally, but, you know, work hard, and like save up and have a plan. Like, I have a plan. Like, I have certain equipment in my head that I want to get, and a certain amount of money I want to save, and once I hit that, I'm going to ask either for a promotion to be a ground guy, so I don't have to do all this strenuous stuff and just, you know, wire the inverters and stuff like that, which I've done to main electrical panels. You know, I've learned a lot about electrical recently, bending conduit, etc. You know, if I can't do that after I have that little deadline, I'm going to quit and get, like, a delivery job or something. Like, still something high paying, but that is like low stress, and that's something I can have more time to focus on music and stuff I want to do, because I don't want to have the body of an 80-year-old in the next 5 years, or 60-year-old, you know what I mean? Like, that's a little bit dramatic, but still, like, I want to be able to use my time and do something that actually means something to me, versus just all this, like, bullshit, you know? Anyways, this probably helped no one, but it was just all the comments I get on that, like, annoy me, and like, I just don't realize how if they, I can't talk. I don't think they realize how dumb they sound. So this is my response to that. And Do something that makes you happy. Like, even if it's like music or drawing or fucking something like that. Even if you're like, oh, I'm not gonna make enough money. Like, yeah, you might not, but you might get good enough to where one day you will. Like, while you're broke and don't have responsibilities, go after your dream job or your dream career or whatever the hell you want to do. Because once you get to my age, you just get depressed and pissed off at yourself that you didn't try harder in the first place. Have a good day. Hope this helped someone.